I didn't check the porch right away. I waited until Lily was busy with her markers and the last crumbs of her cinnamon toast. Then I stepped outside, slow, careful not because I thought it might finally be there, but because I didn't want her to see me hoping. The porch was empty. Again. Inside, my daughter had already pulled up the family Facebook group on the old tablet. Claire had posted a picture of her kids, Josh, Ava, and Maddie, beaming beside 3 big boxes wrapped in plaid paper and tied with gold ribbon. From Grandma Evelyn. Handmade jam again, the caption read. Lily looked up at me. She's sick, smart, and quieter than she should be. Did Grandma forget me this year, she asked. I smiled too quickly. Maybe the post's just slow. She nodded. That was all. But her eyes lingered on the screen where Ava held up a card with glitter letters spelling her name. This wasn't the first time we didn't get a box, but it was the first time Lily noticed. And something about this year, this exact day, made it different for me too. Maybe it was how deliberately Evelyn had handwritten each child's name. Maybe it was how Claire's kids had matching Christmas pajamas, the kind Evelyn used to buy for me and Claire when we were their age. Or maybe it was just the look in Lily's eyes, that tiny pause before she nodded like she'd felt something shift, like she'd stopped asking if she was invisible and started wondering why. I walked back into the kitchen, opened the junk drawer, and stared down at the pile of old gift tags, most of them unused. They came in packs of 50. I had more than enough. I pulled one out and scribbled our names on it anyway, Marie and Lily. Then I slid it back under the others. I didn't tell Lily that I had checked the mail every morning for the past week, or that I kept Evelyn's number saved in my phone even though she hadn't used it in years, or that I still remembered how she used to wrap the cookie tins in red and white string when Claire and I were little. I didn't say any of that. I just sat down across from Lily and said, "Hey, want to help me make our own box this year?" She looked at me unsure. Who would we send it to? I hesitated. Then I said, maybe. No one. Maybe we keep it. Just for us. She nodded again, this time without looking away. I was 22 when I told her I was pregnant. I still remember the way she looked at me across the kitchen table, silent for so long. I thought maybe she hadn't heard me. Then she reached for her coffee, took a sip, and said, "Don't make this harder than it already is. You still have options." I told her I'd already made my choice. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just stood up, opened a drawer, and pulled out a yellow notepad. "I'll find an agency. You can't raise a child on waitressing tips and pride." I said I wasn't giving her up. She didn't speak to me again for 3 weeks. I moved out the next day, found a basement studio behind a retired mechanic's house, and worked double shifts until my ankles went numb. When Lily was born, I texted a photo. No reply. For the first few years, I held out hope. Sent pictures every birthday. Called on Mother's Day. No response. Then, Claire's second child, Ava, turned one, and Evelyn threw her a garden party. There were pink balloons, finger sandwiches, a face painter. The whole family was invited except us. I still sent Lily's Christmas cards. She scribbled hearts and crooked snowflakes asking if Grandma liked glitter. We mailed them every December. Never got one back. Then one year, Claire called out of the blue. She sounded tired, flustered. "Mom says she doesn't know where you live anymore." I said, "It's the same house. Has been for 6 years." Claire went quiet, then said something I never forgot. "You know how she is. She only remembers the ones that matter." I hung up. That sentence sat in my chest for months, like a small sharp stone that wouldn't move. Not rage, not sadness, just weight. Still, I didn't say anything to Lily. When she asked if Grandma liked her drawings, I always said yes. But there were signs. Kids know. One Christmas, Claire's family sent us cookies in a tin Evelyn used to use. The handwriting on the tag was unmistakable. Evelyn's crossed out and relabeled. Claire had reused the box. Lily opened it and said, "Did Grandma send these?" I smiled. "No, sweetheart. Aunt Claire did." Then I folded the tin back up and put it in the cabinet behind the mismatched mugs. Years later, I'd open that same cabinet looking for a place to hide the birthday card Lily wrote and never sent. It had hearts on the front and the word Grandma spelled wrong. She hadn't asked me to mail it. She just left it on the counter and went to bed. That night I stood in the hallway outside her room. She was asleep, one hand curled under her cheek the way she used to do as a baby. I stood there longer than I should have, trying to understand how a person could look at a child like that and choose not to see her. I never found an answer. But that was the night I stopped correcting Lily when she said, "We don't have a grandma." I waited until the day after Christmas to call Claire. She answered on the third ring, sounded rushed, distracted. I heard Josh yelling in the background something about hot cocoa and marshmallows. I kept my voice steady. "Did Mom ask for my address this year?" A pause. "Why?" Claire said. "We didn't get a box." Again. She exhaled like she'd been holding something in. "I don't know, Marie. Maybe she thought you moved. I haven't moved in 8 years. "I don't know what to tell you," she said. "You know how she is. Disorganized." I hung up before she could finish the sentence, but something about her tone stayed with me. It wasn't guilt. It was avoidance, the kind that says, "I don't want to lie to you, but I also don't want to be the one who tells the truth." That night, I sat at the kitchen table and pulled out Lily's markers and glitter glue. We made our own Christmas box. I told her it was just for us, but part of me wanted to send it anyway, to prove we were still here. As I folded the tissue paper, I noticed something strange. The label sheet I'd picked up from the drawer still had the USPS tracking stickers Claire had sent us last year. I typed the number into my phone. Just curiosity. It showed the package had arrived on time. Delivered 3 days before Christmas. Addressed to Joshua Lane. Same zip code as ours. Just 3 houses down. Claire had mailed all her gifts using Mom's handwritten labels. I could tell by the looping E's. Mom hadn't lost my address. She'd written out every name, every street, every zip code. She just skipped one. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking of Lily's box of cards everyone returned unopened or never sent at all. In the morning, I found her digging through the closet. "What are you looking for, baby?" She held up an envelope with glitter edges. "I found the one I made last year." I turned it over. It was sealed, stamped, addressed. My handwriting. Lily's drawing of a snowman peeking out the corner. But there was a red sticker over the address. "Refused return to sender." Lily asked, "What does that mean?" I looked at her then, down at the envelope. "It means," I said carefully, "that sometimes people decide they don't want to get mail." She blinked at me, then nodded. That was it. But she didn't put the card back. She slid it into her backpack. The call came on December 21st around 7:30 in the evening. I had just put Lily to bed. She'd fallen asleep humming a Christmas tune, arms wrapped around a stuffed deer she named Olive. The apartment was quiet save for the dryer tumbling in the back. I almost didn't answer when I saw the caller ID. Evelyn Dalton. I froze. I hadn't seen her name on my screen in years. It looked out of place, like it belonged to someone else's life. I picked up. "Hi, Marie." Her voice was calm, flat, like she was calling to confirm a dental appointment. I managed a hello. "I was just going through some old things," she said. "Found some of Lily's drawings." I waited. "She's 6 now, right?" "7 in March," I said. She hummed. "Does she still like drawing?" "She does." A long pause. Then, "That's good. Art is a creative outlet." I almost laughed. It was the kind of thing she used to say when we were kids, just vague enough to sound supportive without touching anything real. But still, she called. After all this time. And she said Lily's name. That was something. She asked what Lily liked. I told her Fox's stickers, glitter pens, baking. Anything with orange frosting. Evelyn listened. Didn't interrupt. Then she said, "Maybe I'll put something together. A little package. I probably have time." And just like that, my chest tightened in a way I hadn't let it in years. After we hung up, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, replaying the words. Maybe I'll put something together. I let myself believe it. Not entirely, but just enough to tell Lily when she woke up the next morning that Grandma had called. Really, she asked, eyes wide. She asked about you. She remembered your drawings. Lily beamed. "Do you think she'll send something?" Maybe I said. Maybe this year will be different. December 24th. The mail came early. Nothing. December 25th. The porch stayed empty. The inbox, too. Claire posted another photo of the kids in matching flannel holding mugs of cocoa in their boxes. Maddie's had a snow globe. Josh's had a mini football signed by someone I didn't recognize. Ava had a cookbook and measuring spoons. Lily said nothing, just kept playing with Olive, pulling out scraps of tissue paper from our homemade box, fluffing them up like new. That night, I tucked her in and kissed her forehead. "Still no box," she whispered. "No." A pause. Did she change her mind? I looked at her. 7 years old, already knowing more about emotional withdrawal than she should. "No, sweetheart," I said. "Some people don't change, and that's not your fault." The next day, I walked to the post office with a small box wrapped in plain brown paper. Inside a snowman ornament Lily made out of clay, one of her drawings of a fox in a Santa hat, and a photo of her holding the cookie tin from Claire, smiling but not quite. I stood at the counter with the label in my hand. Then I folded it in half and dropped it in the trash. I walked out without sending anything. It was a Thursday in January when Aunt Ruth died. She wasn't technically my aunt, just my mother's cousin, but she was the only adult who ever asked if I was okay without making it sound like an obligation. She once told me I had the kind of eyes that don't lie. I think that's why Evelyn kept her at arm's length. The funeral was small, the kind where no one speaks unless spoken to. Cold wind, gray sky, folding chairs on wet grass. I saw Evelyn near the casket after the service, wrapped tight in her coat like she didn't trust the world to keep her warm. Claire stood beside her posture-perfect eyes, blank. No one looked at me. No one asked about Lily. After the burial, Claire invited me to her place for coffee, said Evelyn was too drained to host. There were things to sort: Ruth's old teacups, embroidered napkins, photos. I followed her and not expecting anything, just going through the motions. While Claire repacked leftovers in the kitchen, I wandered through the house past the hallway table and into the dining room. Evelyn's laptop was open on the table screen, still bright. I didn't plan to read anything, but the email was already up. My name was in the subject line. It was from Evelyn, sent to Claire, 2 days before Christmas. "Thanks for handling the gifts again." The boxes looked perfect. "I only have 3 grandchildren, and I appreciate you helping me make that clear. Marie made her choice. I made mine. I won't reward shame with tradition. That child is not family. I won't be guilted into pretending." I didn't move. My hands stayed at my sides, but something inside me curled away. It wasn't about memory. It wasn't about forgetting an address or losing a list. It was policy. She had written us out. Not by accident. Not from distance. But with intention. I stared at the words until they no longer looked like language, until they just became shapes made by someone I used to call Mother. Then I stepped back quietly. Claire was still talking in the kitchen, laughing lightly with someone on the phone. I didn't tell her what I saw. I didn't mention it on the drive home. There was no point. Some truths come fully formed. They don't need unpacking. They don't need forgiveness. They just need to be left exactly where they're found. I didn't sleep much after the funeral. It wasn't the cold or the silence. It was the email, how easy it looked on the screen, how clean. As if what Evelyn said wasn't cruel, just efficient, like removing a name from a list. By morning, I stopped asking myself why. I found a box in Lily's closet, sturdy, unused, the kind Evelyn always liked. Clean corners, no markings. I lined it with soft tissue pulled from the drawer we kept under the sink. Not the festive kind, just plain white. Then I started filling it. First, Lily's birthday card, the one with the fox sticker and uneven handwriting. It still said, "I love you" in shaky marker. Then the Christmas drawings she'd made over the years. Most of them I'd quietly tucked away: snowmen, stars, one lopsided tree with her name across the bottom in glitter glue. A clay ornament shaped like a snowflake. Slightly cracked, still precious. A photo of Lily baking cookies, her face streaked with flour and pride. She was wearing an apron I'd sewn from old pillowcases. Evelyn had never seen it. She never asked. I placed the drawings on top, smoothed the edges, then sealed the box shut. I printed a label, not with postage, just names, and an address that had never changed. And in the return section, I wrote, "Return to sender." I drove to Evelyn's house the next morning, parked half a block away, walked up the sidewalk slowly carrying the box in both hands like it weighed more than it did. The porch looked exactly as I remembered: weather-stained boards, a faded wreath, the same mat from 15 Christmases ago that still said, "Welcome." I didn't knock. I didn't wait. I just placed the box by the door under the window where she used to call Claire in from the yard. I stepped back, looked at it once, then I turned around and walked away. Not angry, not broken, just finished. Spring came late that year. Even in April, patches of snow clung to the ground like someone forgot to tell them winter was over. I started opening the windows during the day, just a little enough to let in air that didn't feel like memory. Lily didn't ask about the box. Not on Easter. Not on my birthday. Not when she helped me put away the last of the holiday cards we never sent. One Sunday, I found her in the corner of her room with an empty shoebox in her lap. She was covering it in stickers, foxes, cupcake stars. I sat down beside her. "What's that?" I asked. She shrugged. "It's for later." "For what?" "For when I have kids," she said. "So I don't forget." Inside the box were blank note cards, some old ribbon, a few of the unused tags from our drawer. One of them still had our names written in my handwriting, Marie and Lily. I didn't say anything, just reached out and helped her smooth down the last sticker. She looked at me and smiled, not wide, not showy, just enough. That night, as I folded laundry and listened to the wind shift outside, I realized something. There are boxes we wait for and ones we send. There are boxes that never arrive. And then there are the ones we keep. Lily's box didn't need a label. It didn't need a destination. It just needed to exist. And in that quiet, quiet way, children sometimes understand more than they should, she had made sure we wouldn't forget ourselves. She kept the box. Not to send, not to prove anything. Just so no one would forget again. I don't know what your box looks like. Maybe it's in a drawer. Maybe it's just a name you don't say out loud anymore. But if you've ever stood in the hallway wondering why they remembered everyone but you, if you've ever opened your hands and found them empty on Christmas morning when everyone else had something with a tag on it, you already know this story. We don't need to trade details. You don't have to tell me what they called you, or how long you waited for the knock that never came. I've been there. And if you've kept your silence all these years, if you've held your own name like it wasn't worth the wrapping, just leave a dot, or one word they never said to you. I'll read it. We all will.